Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to today's work session, which we have on four bills coming before us, 656, 665, 729, and 204. Those are four bills which we did not have subcommittee work on earlier this year. But I'd first like to represent Hall, who is standing in for Representative Luno. We do not have everybody else. Looks like you're here with a smiling face and just thrilled to be here. Okay, so I'd like to start walking through these bills, which I have a work session on, seeing that we need to be discussing these four bills and learning the various positions. So the first one, which we have on our agenda right here, is 656. This is relative to the authority of local school districts to accept federal grants. So 656. So when we're looking at this is one of the amendments which was passed out. It's an amendment that has Representative Peternell's name on it and my name as well. So I'd like to go ahead and just, open this up and discuss the bill as amended. Because the amendment does replace the entire bill. And this bill is one which, let me get the original out. Six, five, six. It's relative to the authority of local school districts to accept federal grants. The analysis says this bill requires that all funds dispersed from a federal government unit to a school district be deemed unanticipated money for the purposes of appropriation of unanticipated funds made available during the year. It also requires that notice of a hearing for action on unanticipated funds or minutes of the school board meeting that takes action on unanticipated funds include a summary of any obligations incurred by accepting the funds. There were some concerns the way the bill was written, and working with Representative Peternell, evidently worked with the department finance people in making this amendment. The first portion of the bill, which has amending language, is in the first paragraph there under item number 1. The annual report shall also contain a summary of estimated funds anticipated from state and federal government units during the ensuing fiscal year. For each fund, the annual report shall contain the title or other identifier of the fund, as well as a summary of any obligations incurred by accepting the unanticipated funds, or state that there are no obligations. Obligations like if you have to have, raise money to match that fund, or you might be doing it in kind by providing labor, that would all have to be noticed. Going down to item 2, Roman 2, all funds made available during the year and not disclosed in the annual report pursuant to RSA 198.4 shall be deemed to be unanticipated money under the provisions of this section. And Roman 3, such notice shall contain the title or other identifier of the fund, as well as a summary of any obligations incurred by accepting the unanticipated funds, or state there are no obligations incurred. And lastly, starting on the base of that page where it says the minutes of the school board meeting shall contain the title or other identifier of the fund, a summary of any obligations incurred by accepting the unanticipated funds, or state that there are no obligations incurred. Those are the changes which are basically addressing the issue of transparency. And of course, any grant money coming in is unanticipated. So that's the nature of the amendment. Now open up to discussion. Yes, Representative Damon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So my first question is in regards to, I think it was your last statement, in which I think you said all grant funds are unanticipated, and I
Well,
did
that's.
not understand that
if
to be
you're-
so.
It's not necessarily so. We have grant funds that are part of adequacy, right?
Right?
That are like fiscal capacity aid or extraordinary needs grant. Those are anticipated.
May I ask further?
Yes.
So federal funds such as Title I, Title II, IDEA, I was under the impression that those are considered to be anticipated funds.
I believe you're correct.
Thank you.
Representative Popovich.
Thank you. I will just want to add to that while in the original version of the bill, that confusion may have been possible because of the way the language is written, in the amendment that is addressed, and all the estimated funds anticipated are listed in the annual report. The rest of the bill only applies to those that are not reported in the annual report as anticipated. So I hope that clarifies any questions on that particular topic. See, if you look at the amendment number 2933, the first paragraph that modifies
What line are
198
you on? What line?
He's on line 10.
Right now I'm looking at line 9 through 13, which include the reporting needed for the anticipated grants, and then the remaining language from 19 and 20 and so on and so forth only applies to other grants that were not otherwise included. So that should cover all the potential concerns along those lines.
Further discussion? Yes, Representative Fellows.
Yeah, so I'm just reading this for the first time, but I'm concerned
are.
about the line, let's see, starts at 11 for each fund. Let's see. Contain, let's see, it's okay. Hold on, give me a minute. It's okay to say include the title and identifier of the fund, but then a summary of any obligations incurred by accepting these funds. So one of the things that happens when districts accept federal grants is they have to sign this document that is assurances of federal requirements, and it's 16 pages long. And it's things like you can't, anybody who is doing anything that is based on the federal funding, they can't use their cell phone when they're driving. There can't be any smoking in certain places. A whole list of federal requirements like that. I don't think we want to put 16 pages, and that's just of the general assurances that apply to all federal grants. And then each individual grant has requirements related to whether, the SPED IDEA funding is different from the Title I funding.
Representative Popovich.
Thank you. I agree with my colleague that the requirements can be quite arcane, but I fully support the idea of publishing them because at the end of the day, nobody has to read the whole annual report. This will be a reference in the back of the annual report, if I may. The annual report is published for everybody to choose to read or not. It's not like it's mandatory to go through every line and there is a quiz at the end. People pick and choose what they read from the annual report. So I would strongly support the choice of people to be able to read that if they decide to go to the end of it where all the long federal things are. But I would be very concerned if we decided not to do this because then they would have no way of knowing what are the strings attached. Every federal funding comes with strings attached. Why wouldn't we want the people to understand what are the strings that come with the federal money? While I acknowledge that they can be a bit long.
Further discussion? Yes. Representative Berkey.
The seat is so very low. I feel like I'm like,
You can
nope,
turn it
it's
upside
broken.
down and roll.
Nope, it's broken. I asked Representative Peoples to help me, but thank you very much. In response to your thoughts about the annual report, the longer the annual report, the more needs to be printed. the more that needs to be printed, the more it costs the district. In these desperate financial times, if we're going to start adding, I mean, that's just one. The general assurances is just one 16-page document. If we start adding even more pages to it, we are going to further bankrupt school districts. Thank you.
Yes, Representative Cocom.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Seeing as you are a co-sponsor on this, could you maybe explain where you guys, what your intentions were on these obligations? Is it all of the obligations as we're discussing here, or was it the financial obligations or the curriculum obligations maybe? So should we maybe tighten up the verbiage for obligations so that we're not putting in more than necessary from what your intentions are?
Yeah, I'd be glad to help as much as I can on this. This is an amendment which Representative Peternell did and worked with folks on. I didn't get involved with that much, but I am concerned that when I've been working on our county delegation or on the select board in my community, that there have been times when we have chased this money. But there have been obligations that we have had to comply with, either in matching those grant monies or in providing service in terms of labor to match. And there are those in the community don't understand or realize that is occurring. And what we're trying to be is open and transparent with the community. Yes, these are the requirements of that and of that grant, of receiving and using those funds. And it's going to cost us in this regard. So I feel comfortable with that. I think, printing a few more pages in a report is worthy of the transparency. Representative Kofod had his hand up first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess I would point out it's not a few more pages, it's a few more lines. It's a few bullet points, because this doesn't say that you have to list all of the obligations.
Yeah.
It says you have to list a summary of the obligations. And perhaps more importantly, it specifies that you have to list an identifier for the grant, so that if somebody wants to do the research, if they want to understand, if they want to read it in detail, they have a reference, they can go look at it and read it in detail. And I know people who have done this, not in the school space, but I know people who have done this in, sort of initiatives that were potential federal grants coming to cities and towns in New Hampshire. And what they found in the way of obligations was fairly shocking. And when they shared those with, in this case, the city council was very clear that we don't want to get into this. So I think, the way this is written, there are grants that school districts receive every year. They know full well what they're getting into. Those go into the annual report. No special handling is required. What this is saying is summary of obligations, and that for things that are not in the annual report, they're going to be treated as unanticipated funds, so that there is a hearing, so that the public has ample opportunity to study the issue, discuss the issue, and weigh in on the issue.
Representative,
I can be-
then Representative Phelps and Representative Damon.
I can be brief because Representative Kofod just made my point, but the purpose of a summary is to act as a cue. It's to give you a clue that there are obligations that even exist. You can then go and find out what they are. So I don't think it's a troublesome bureaucratic problem.
Yes, Representative Phelps.
Yes, so still working on this issue of this summary of obligations. For federal funds, I think a better approach would be to have the districts put the grant application or a summary of the grant application on their website, and the obligations can be put with that. So then anybody who wants to look at it can, because I don't know how you're going to summarize those, even those general obligations that the districts have to approve and agree to. I mean, they're all over the place. If you say summary, then somebody's going to complain that you didn't put in one part of it.
Representative Damon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have an alternative approach that perhaps would provide the transparency that is being sought with less labor across all the districts statewide. Could we perhaps require the State Department of Education to develop and publish, and perhaps they already have it developed, but not necessarily published, a list of all the federal grants that are commonly made available to districts and what the obligations attached to them are. So there are probably few, perhaps no districts that don't receive IDEA funds, for example. If DOE did a list of all of these anticipated grant funds and what the obligations attached to them are, the obligations are the same for every district. They're not district specific, I don't believe. That can be made available, and there could be a link in the reports so that folks who want to read the fine details have access to it, rather than having every individual district commit labor, time, effort when they already have so much to do. And it's going to be redundant. Every district's going to be doing the same kind of thing. So I'd love to hear some feedback on that thought.
Representative Gopal.
Although I know AI, generative AI can sometimes have flaws and hallucinate things, I think I could probably take a multi-page contract, feed it to ChatGPT, and say I need a summarized, prioritized list of what the obligations are, starting with the biggest, most expensive obligations first. Please give me that summary, and I think I would have that in less than 30 seconds.
Further discussion, Representative Bricky?
I guess, so we're talking about the federal grants, and my guess is that's not what this is dealing with. Were there some specific grants that we need to be worried about? Like when you and Representative Peternell came up with the bill and the amendment, what did you have in mind for grants?
I'm trying to check to see if I was even on the bill when I was not involved in putting this together.
Okay.
I told her that I would help put this amendment together and present it to us right here. But I know that as been in a school and worked in the school business, there are grants which you receive, which State Department of Education doesn't receive. You chase every coin you can find.
Yeah, you do.
And
sorry.
with good reason. And I think this is a really good, for example, I'll tell you what happened in a situation which was in school related, but in the municipality of Haverhill, New Hampshire. We're right there on the Ammonoosuc and the Connecticut rivers, and we have a covered bridge which goes over to Bath. And in order to get this bridge completed, we had to chase some grant monies. And everybody in the community didn't realize that we were able to get those grant monies because we weren't necessarily contributing dollars. We made a deal that our state municipal town manager would be at that site overseeing for 5-6 hours a day. In the meantime, people came to the office and wanted help, and they couldn't get help because he was down there. And so that did create somewhat of a concern. However, for the majority of people in the community, we were very pleased we didn't have to put any cash up.
Right.
And it was a good place for our manager to stay.
So what I'm hearing, sorry.
Go ahead.
Did I enter? Okay. So what I'm hearing from you is this is more about private grants, not federal and state. So should we put in private?
I don't know that the grant we got was not a private grant. I believe it's one that came from the state. So I think this is a wide range. It can, and I think when we try to, get down in the weeds and say this one or that one count or that one doesn't, I think we're making a mistake. Because a lot of this stuff comes up and you're not even cognizant that this grant's going to be available. And you just hear it maybe by word of mouth.
It's too bad that we didn't have time to work on this
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, Representative Spilsbury.
So clearly, it's only dealing with those things that occur incrementally over the course of the year and weren't included in the annual report. And the context is essentially to prepare those members of the community who attend a hearing to be informed, right? That's the purpose of the summary, is to make sure that when there's a call to vote to receive the funds, it's an informed vote. So I don't think it is as big as some of us are making it out to be.
Representative Colcom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I wasn't part of this bill either, obviously, but I would say that I like the idea and the methodology behind it, and I do think that it does apply to federal, because I know that I personally have been in front of my school board asking them, if we accept these federal dollars, what's it going to cost us? What are our obligations to accept these dollars? And when I have been at every budget deliberative session, rather, when I've been at the deliberative session asking how much of our budget is there because we've accepted these federal dollars, they've never been able to answer that question for me. So I think that this absolutely should be transparent for us so that we can see it. You know, and so there's more to that. We don't always get the full funding, even though we are led to believe that the full funding is available.
Representative Phillips, then Representative Popovich.
So I'd just like to say for the federal grants, it doesn't cost the district anything. They're getting money from the federal government to do certain things. And what people should be concerned about is not the specific obligations, which is what I was talking about those assurances. You know, you're not going to do all these things you mostly wouldn't be doing anyway. It has, what people want to know is if you have available to you over $1 million for Title I, how are you going to spend that money? And so what most districts do is they spend it on things like reading teachers. It's usually used at the elementary grade level. That is the kind of thing that people really need to know. They don't need to know the assurances and what are the obligations for those federal school funds. It doesn't require them to spend any extra money. The grant is supporting itself. If they reject the grant, they don't do whatever those things were, you know, hire a teacher, have, maybe you're going to get computers or books or whatever. You're just not going to spend that money. It doesn't obligate the district to spend any additional money.
Representative Popovich.
Thank you. Very briefly, there were questions about which grants we may be worried about or whatnot. It's not about whether it's a federal grant or a private grant or a grant we like or a grant we dislike. It's about the fact that a lot of the times people are asked to make decisions on accepted grants without being disclosed what the strings attached to the grant are. That's it. It's really as simple as that. All this bill is trying to do is trying to say when the voters are being asked to approve, you know, accepting a grant, tell them what the strings attached to the grant are. If the grant is great with strings attached, they'll happily take it. But we do not want to see situations like it happened in the past where people were mentioning all the benefits but never mentioned the strings attached, and people discovered later there were strings they didn't know about, and that leads to a lot of dysfunction and unhappiness. So nothing wrong with full disclosure on those are the strings. Now you can vote and you are informed. That's it.
Representative Kofalt.
Yeah, I think there's there are other situations where school districts get a grant, hire somebody into it. They use that money for its purposes to hire somebody into a position which is ostensibly a temporary position, then becomes a full-time position. So accepting the grant may be a short-term gain and a medium and long-term liability for the school district. That isn't necessarily obligations or strings attached, but it's important information about a grant. And I will echo, my colleague here said it before before I had an opportunity to speak. This is about transparency. This is about, a summary of obligations, a grant number, a reference number, so that people can be fully informed, and then making sure that things that are not in the annual report, things that come up in the middle of the year, have an ample opportunity for public information, review, discussion, and input.
Okay, I'd like to remind everybody, we are a half hour into our work session. We have 3 others coming up. Yes, Representative.
Just really quick, I mean, I don't have an issue with added transparency. I think that any transparency that we can provide to the community is helpful for voters. What I question, though, is whether or not publishing this in the annual report is really helpful. And I can only speak to my experience in my town, but I know that our annual report is handed out on voting day. And it's usually something that you pick up on your way out the door. It's not available at the deliberative session. We don't have that information at the deliberative session. So I'm just not sure what publishing it in the annual report actually provides to the community for voter transparency.
Any further discussion? We'll just. Oh, Representative Ames.
Well, I've been listening to all this discussion, and my takeaway is that this isn't ready for prime time. We've got an amendment here that's just arrived in front of us. We've had a lot of time to, before today, to consider what should or should not be done with this bill. And here we are with this amendment. It raises a lot of questions. It's the kind of thing that should be available to the public in time for the public to weigh in and provide us with information on just what people have been talking about, concerns that maybe language in here isn't quite right. The word summary, what does that mean? In one school district's mind, it may mean one thing, and in another school district's mind, it may mean something much more detailed and so forth. Why not, if there's urgency to this, that's one thing. I don't think there is. So I would suggest setting it aside.
Any further discussion on the bill before we move into the, pardon me? Yes, Representative Damon?
I greatly appreciate my colleague to the left's summary of our discussion. It is in fact quite concerning to process an amendment that is notably different and perhaps in some ways improved from the original bill draft, but not have an opportunity to hear from the public. We have no one here, to my knowledge, from the Department of Education to reflect on this. I'd like to talk to folks in the school districts in my community about how they would implement it and what the impact would be. It feels very premature to move this forward.
Any further discussion? Okay, we're gonna, yes, Representative Burton.
Very quickly, I'm an 11-year town councilor in Durham, and I wouldn't make a decision on something like this without consulting with my colleagues on the council or our town administrator to find out what the effect would be on Durham.
Further discussion? Okay, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go to the next bill that we have coming up here, and that's 665. Relative to eligibility for free school meals. The bill increases the eligibility for free school meals to household incomes up to 300% of federal poverty guidelines and provides funding from the Education Trust Fund for the additional costs. It's open for discussion. Representative Damon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm quite sure that no one on this committee will be the least bit surprised to hear that I support this bill strongly. And in addition to the discussion and remarks that we've had on various efforts over the course of this term to increase eligibility for free school meals, I think it's particularly important to note at this juncture that we have a heightened awareness in our society of the incidence of food security and the fragility of our systemic programs to try to be helpful with that. The fiscal note for this bill projects the costs based on both breakfast and lunch being provided for free, when in fact that's not what the bill says. It says that one, or at least one is the terminology, meal will be made available during the school day. So the actual fiscal impact, if you provided breakfast, which is the less expensive meal and nutritionally very valuable because literally it breaks the fast of a person having not eaten overnight. It's nutritionally very important timing to eat in the morning for cognitive function and behavior management. So the fiscal note would actually be substantially less than what is presented if that were the case.
Further discussion from the committee? Yes, Representative Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess with feeding kids, I don't think we can go wrong. As a 40-year veteran educator, I think I can say that it's important that kids are fed. They need access to nutrition they need to reach their full potential, and access to nutritious meals improves their health, mental and physical, and it also provides greater stability to families, those in need, allowing the kids to focus more on their studies and less on worrying about where their next meal will come from. So feeding kids is important as almost anything. Thank you.
Yes, Representative Creation.
I also was a 31-year public school teacher in Title I schools my entire teaching career with high poverty. And the fact that they received breakfast made a huge difference in the classroom of the small children that I taught. It was important, and as you said, I agree with you that it makes the day, it changes the day of that child. So I hope that this will be something that will be considered by all.
Any further discussion on the bill? Okay, we're going to go on to the next bill then. And that is HB 729, making an appropriation to the Department of Education for an attorney to recodify the education laws. I'd like to, just discuss that a little bit here, seeing that I was a co-sponsor of this particular bill. And this is a bill that we've been discussing, recodifying that large book we call our statutes for education. And we all know there's sections within it that are contradictory of another section possibly following another 40 pages later in it. And it's a tremendous, tremendous issue. My concerns with the bill right now is that, I'll tell you, it's not going to get done for $100,000. We're talking hours and hours and hours and historical knowledge and understanding of what's going on with these statutes. I did have a chance to talk to several of the attorneys down in legislative services. Unfortunately, if you go to legislative services now, you're not going to see the same attorneys you're used to. Anthony's gone, Jeff's gone. It's all a different crew over there, which doesn't have that historical background on where we've been. Now, when we were talking and doing this several years back, we had Anthony getting ready to retire, and we subsequently have Jeff that, and I won't say last names, who has retired. They were well equipped to go back through maybe a contract of some kind to do this in their retirement. However, that's not available to us right now. And with also the knowledge that we have well over 1,000 bills that have been filed, I'm just, is this the right time? Yeah, and there's never been a right time really for this particular bill because it's so complex and so complicated. So I'm more inclined right now to say, nah, we can't do it, and let's try to find, and Representative Hill, I know you're the prime sponsor of this bill. Trying to be innocuous out there in the crowd. Sitting there very bold and looking at us, but I for one think that it's probably not timely. Representative Fellows?
So I agree with everything that you just said.
Really?
And and I'm thinking that the way to proceed maybe would be to identify just a chunk of the statutes related to education and have some, tackle them in small chunks, because I think this doesn't identify just a section to work on. If we could identify just one section or one particular task, then we could work on it incrementally. So
That's an option, and
Right, and
you
we
look
don't-
at the
and we haven't-
193E, C, H, and then you go into 198 sections and all that.
Yes, so, and we'd have to talk about what section and what to do first. So this isn't ready, in my opinion.
Representative Popovich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that I asked when such bills were discussed, because this has been discussed the previous term and this term again, is why don't we start by compiling a list of issues that we already know about? Because basically the approach of this is just start from scratch, look at all the statutes and dig any conflicts. That's a Herculean task. It's unbelievably difficult. The department is already aware of certain issues. Other school districts may have stumbled upon conflicts in trying to interpret laws. Why don't we start, and that would not require legislation, by just putting together a list of, hey, those are the known conflicts. This will give legislators an opportunity to use their 27 cents a day labor to presumably fix those instead of paying $500 an hour for an attorney. And by the way, if you want to get a good attorney, you're going to have to pay them a lot of money. And if you pay an attorney little money, well, you may not like the advice you're getting. So seriously, I would strongly suggest that this is a bill that should not be passed this year. Trying to fund this right now is literally like digging a hole in the sand in a Saharan desert and trying to fill it with a bucket of water. It will go straight through. We are not going to get anything done for $100,000. And I don't want to start a project for $100,000, discover it's going to cost me $5 million, because then we'll feel the pressure to spend more. Could we start at least this year while we are not doing this, hopefully? Put that list of this is what we know is already a conflict. See how many of them could be solved without involving expensive legal stuff. And then, talk more about this after we've tried to solve some of the glaring known issues.
Further discussion? By recalling using our memories, I don't think I could do it. Looking at cooperative school districts, looking at school districts, looking at SAUs, looking at higher education, looking at, as you move through that, some of the interstate agreements we have, and then you get into adequacy, and then what's the difference between adequacy and studies? We've had this conversation, and I don't think it's possible for us to list all that. I'd have to shake my memory, and probably half of it's gone. So I just think this is a Herculean task, which I'd love to see done. I truthfully would love to see it done, but I just don't think we have the wherewithal or the money or the time to do it. Any further discussion on this one? Yes, Representative Damon.
I can't wait for your response to this, Mr. Chair, because I, with Representative Fellows, agree with you.
Really? Well, that's
fun.
well.
You just never know. I do also want to note that all of us could do our best due diligence as we go forward with many proposed pieces of legislation that will be in front of us to look more deliberately at clarity in what we put into statute so that we're not creating further uncertainty beyond what already exists in statute. We do need to do what this bill proposes to do. We simply don't have the resources to do it this time, and who knows when we will. But we could at least be very deliberate in our language and discussions and research and in our thoroughness to try not to augment the problem.
I thank you for your kind remarks. Maybe you can really support some of the things I do later on today.
Maybe go right back.
So, but at any rate, I can remember when Representative Mooney came forward with her charter school bill, building aid, and it was conflicting legislation in that book from one place to the other, where it could happen or it couldn't happen. That's multiple, 10 times, 100 times over throughout. So I think it's probably wise that we recognize we have an issue here. If you maybe start jotting down some of those conflicts you see somewhere in your statutes in the back cover or something, you need a couple back covers. And then we can probably gel this stuff together and just keep a log going. But I think this is for another time, another date.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on it? Let's get.
I'd just like to say one thing. I have discovered that if you try to use Google and Google's AI, if you try to use Google's AI to look up something, ask, is this correct? That Google is looking at bills that we have not yet voted on and reporting that as how the law currently is. Just to let people know to be careful.
That's absolutely so. I've seen that happen. So what we'll do is we'll move on now right now to the other bill which we have, that's 204. Relative to the responsibility of local school districts to provide meals to students during school hours, reimbursing schools for meals provided to students at no cost and making an appropriation therefore. 204. This is a bill brought forward by Senator Fenton and Senator Lang. If you remember, everybody remember that? Yes, Representative.
Thank you. Where this is a work session, I just wanted to call attention to some numbers, and that's the federal poverty guidelines. So currently the federal poverty guidelines for a family of four is $32,150 a year. 130%, which is where we're at now for free and reduced lunch, is $41,795 a year. And at 200%, which is what this bill calls for, is $64,300 a year. And at the same time, the median single family home price in New Hampshire is $550,000. So I think that the cost of, because I think you can maybe look at the 200%. I mean, I don't.
Excuse me, what's the median family income here in New Hampshire?
No, not income. I'm sorry, that was home price.
Okay, home price, because I tell you, that's not Grafton County.
I said home price, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think it's important to think about the burden that's placed on people here in New Hampshire and across the country. And just to recognize those numbers, because I think that that's really important to see. Some people might look at that 64,000 and think, well, for a family of four, that's not so bad. But I can tell you that the people that I speak to are struggling. One of the things that I do when I'm not here is I work at the food bank and I help people sign up for SNAP. So I have I'm aware of the amount of struggle that people are facing, and that's families and older adults as well, and how close to the edge people live every day. So raising this from 130% to 200%, I think is completely reasonable. Thank you.
Further discussion, Representative McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The problem with this bill is the cost. If you look at the fiscal note, this has got an estimated cost of roughly $7 million because they estimate that it would apply to, looks like 12,500 students or something like that. And the problem is we just don't have the money in the general fund to appropriate $7 million. I mean, this is not unlike the previous bill we talked about here. That one was even more expensive. But beyond the $7 million, I'm a little concerned if we define more people as being in free and reduced lunch, maybe that would also feed into the adequacy formula. So in the adequacy formula, I believe it's a $2,100 multiplier times the number of free and reduced lunch. So if we take our 12,500 times another 2.1 thousand, we're talking about $25 million, right? So that's not mentioned in the fiscal notes. So I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but this is at least a $7 million cost, and it could be much more. You know, we're only 4 months into the fiscal year, but revenues over those 4 months have been disappointing. So this is not a time to spend more. I'm sorry about that.
Further discussion? Representative Damon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as in the other bill we mentioned a short bit ago on feeding children, the fiscal note on this bill is presented as the maximum amount that these meals could possibly cost. It's predicated on 100% of eligible students participating, 100% of the school days for both meals. And the reality is that 45% of eligible students eat free breakfast and 70% of eligible students eat free lunch. We have that data, it's well established. And student absenteeism in New Hampshire is between 10 and 24%, depending on which data source you use. So my first point would be that it isn't $7 million. And it puzzles me that those statistics are not acknowledged in the fiscal note. There is a cost benefit to feeding children. There are a number of cost benefits to feeding these needy children. Fewer children end up classified as special education when they're fed. Fewer children need behavioral interventions. Fewer children drop out of school in their teen years when they're adequately fed. I could go more than y'all want to hear. I think it's critically important that we both recognize costs, but also recognize benefit, and the need of these students is profound. We would be more than willing to amend the bill with clear language to state that if this went forward, the additional students who would qualify, so those between 130% of federal poverty level who qualify now and 200% who would qualify if this passed, we could put in language that those students, those added students, would not be used to change adequacy aid formulas. It is so critically important to feed these kids. So if the majority of the committee is even the slightest bit receptive, we will get an amendment. It's just critically important to address these families' needs and feed these kids.
Representative Popovich.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question of my colleague. I heard the statistics that you quoted on the absenteeism being between 10 and 24%, I think you said. I'm not sure what the definition of absenteeism is that was used. Is it, what did those stats say, that 10 to 24% of the kids miss school every day, or that 10 to 24% miss school for more than a certain number of days a year? I just want to understand what the range is.
May I respond?
Yes.
It's that on a given school day, between 10 and 24% of children are absent. So it's not the same children routinely, although probably some children are absent more consistently than others. but it's that on a given day, that's the number. And Mr. Chair, if I may, there's a person in the back who I think would have a better explanation if we could allow Laura
Yeah,
Milliken
well-
from Hunger Solutions
Yeah,
to
let's
speak.
hold on a second though. Are there any further discussion items from the committee? Because we have about 2 minutes left. Okay, Laura,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I just wanted to point out that the fiscal note that Representative McGuire is reading from was the original fiscal note. It was substantially amended in the Senate to take out stuff about an online application, to take out the additional, to make it clear that it was optional for schools, so not all schools would participate. So it's been, the fiscal note would have been substantially lowered in the Senate, and I'm not sure why there isn't a fiscal note for that. I also wanted to point out that the state school funding formula is tied to the federal levels of free and reduced. So if New Hampshire decides to raise the level with state funds, it does not affect the state school funding formula as it's currently written.
Thank you. Is there anything we can get from Laura here? Thank you very much. All right, so what we've done is, I think we've gone through the 4 bills. We're going to take about a 5 or 10 minute break here. Go into caucuses, and then we'll come back and we'll start marching through the bills.
Mr. Chairman, I was just
Okay, we're all here ready to go, and we just had a great discussion up here, whether we're going to go down through this list numerically, or if we're going to go down by categories like what we did in subcommittees. We're going to do it numerically. So we're going to start with the lowest number, 112.
Okay.
So for everybody over there on the right-hand side, just get reorganized. And this is because our clerk has things numerical too, so. So looking at the first bill, which we're going to be addressing this afternoon, is HB 112. This is requiring students in the university and community college systems in New Hampshire to pass the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services Naturalization Test. And with that, I'd like to have Pam Brown, would you please make a recommendation there?
Yes, I would like to move that this ought to pass, and we have an amended.
Just go out to pass right
ought to
now.
pass.
And is there a second? Representative Popovich seconds. So we have a motion, OTP, made by Representative Brown and second by Representative Popovich. I recognize Representative Brown, that you can do your amendment now.
Yes, we have an amended version of this bill. It is 3095H. And I believe everyone has a copy of that. And the bill addresses some of the previous concerns mentioned.
Mr. Chair, is there a motion on the amendment?
No, we put forth the motion right here. We need to have a second on that motion.
She didn't actually say that.
Oh, you did that too, on the amendment?
I'm saying I never heard the motion, sir.
Actually said, I moved the amendment.
Oh, okay, she's just saying she's discussing it right now.
I'd like to move the amendment.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so we have on the amendment, we have a motion made by Representative Brown, second by Representative Irv. Representative Brown, would you like to talk about your amendment?
Yes, the amended bill addresses some of the concerns such as having military service as qualification for demonstrating civic engagement. This bill, as amended, simply requires all American students who have not yet done so or who have, unless they've served in the armed forces, should demonstrate basic knowledge of American institutions.
Representative
I concur.
Okay, I'd like to just discuss it a little bit further here, the amendment itself. What we've done with this amendment is that the bill came to us requiring all folks in the university system in New Hampshire and the community college system in New Hampshire to take the U.S. Immigration and Citizenship and Immigration Services Assessment. The amendment continues to require that, or the incoming undergraduate student may take a civics course while in school at the higher education level, that the civics course addresses documentation and of foundations, documents that address the foundational documents of our Constitution, or the student may take the competency course assessment for that civics course. So if they pass that competency test, that satisfies this requirement. So there's three ways you can do it. Take the citizenship test, take the course, or take the competency assessment for that course. There are 14 states within our country which require a civics course at the college level. And I can read those to you if you care to hear them. They're all on the other side of the Mississippi River, except for two, North Carolina and South Carolina, which happen to be on the side we're on. The states are Arizona, Arkansas, Florida's over there on our side. Georgia, same thing. Missouri, Nevada, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. We also know that all students that are leaving our high schools to graduate have to take that assessment. So we know that at the university level, approximately 42% of our students there come from inside our state, from a high school within the state of New Hampshire. So those folks should also have that qualification. We also know that there's another 30 states in our country which require the citizenship test. So another hunk is going to already come in with that under their belts. There are certain exceptions where you do not have to take that. And the amendment looks at that in terms of transfer students and international students. But as another exception, it addresses the issue of the student that's is full-time service in the armed services of the United States, or part-time, which would be the National Guard. And if you are a veteran that's been in the service, you are also exempt from having to take this assessment. So those are the changes which are they placed in this amendment. So I'll open up the further discussion. Representative Burton.
I just want to ask a question. As a veteran, I'm kind of insulted that I have to be included as an exemption. There's no, I did ROTC and I served in combat areas and all that. I have no special knowledge of civics. I feel that, what was the rationale for, I'm opposed to the bill, by the way, but I'm just curious to what the veterans, why do we have to exempt Chairman Ladd, for example, from taking the test? You couldn't pass it if?
You talked to another veteran.
I know.
And this veteran was in Vietnam and Cambodia.
I know.
And also was an instructor at Maine Military Academy.
Well, I'll say hello.
And so in terms of a veteran who had to take the oath to our Constitution, swear to it, and abide by it, and they've done their service to this country, I believe that it's something that's deserving to veterans, very much so. It's something that we give preference to veterans and children of veterans when they're going to school at the higher education level. I think it's another way, especially after the day we just celebrated the other day, recognition of that service and what's been given to this country. They put their lives on the line. And it's not against anybody else who's done the same thing in their career, but I feel strongly that veterans should be inclusive within this exception. They also receive the GI Bill, and in order to use that GI Bill, they would then, have to take this test. I don't think we put another requirement on them. Representative Bricky.
Thank you very much. So just putting it out there, I actually sat on the committee, the higher ed committee, where we looked at this. As you know, there is a a fiscal note attached to it, which the university system and the community college system felt was low. There are some other things wrong with this bill. First of all, they would have to implement a general ed course, which would add to the bill. This new amendment is not included in the original fiscal note, so that $1 million would be higher. There's nothing that talks about what fundamental American documents are. Another issue was that when somebody passes the citizenship test, they can get 12 out of 20, which that 12 out of 20 is passing, which is 60%. We're asking for 70%. There's just a whole lot of things wrong with this, which I am totally against this bill. Thank you.
Representative, I want to get people that haven't had a chance to, Representative Fellows had her hand up too.
Thank you. I would just like to point out that that 2020 test is obsolete at this point. There's a new test. I read about it in the paper about a month ago, and it's different. It has less geography and it has more civics, which is a good thing in my mind. The cost of this is what tell us in the fiscal note. I think it says $100,000 to $500,000 a year is actually seems reasonable because this is an open-ended test. It's not a multiple choice. People have to write down what they think or say what they think their response is. So it's very understandable that it's not multiple choice. Because there are different answers that could qualify as correct on the current test, and the citizenship test has been like that. And it's not clear what civics course you're talking about. So Representative Ladd, it sounded to me like you were saying the high school civics course would qualify them to, would be a qualification for this requirement. But when I read it, I was assuming that it would be a college course that they had to take. So I think it has some issues.
Representative Burton.
There is a fundamental issue.
Don't put on your phone. Put on your microphone.
There's a fundamental issue we haven't talked about, and that is, does the legislature make policy within the university system? In 1981, when the legislature wrote, when the system was established, the general court has delegated broad authority to the board of trustees who shall be responsible for managing the university system in a manner which promotes academic excellence and serves the educational needs of the people of New Hampshire. One of the most important things a board of trustees does, and I've been president of 2 colleges, is set graduation standards, because those graduation standards dictate how you organize your curriculum so that your students come out the way you'd want them to come out. To have the legislature intervene is dangerous and dictate, both in this case and on 510, what policy should be within the system. The trustees are responsible for the system. And I think that's a fundamental problem with the bill. The other one is, there's a couple of them that, for example, you say they should score 70 or better, but the exam, you get 20 questions, and if you get 12 correct, you pass 60%. So this indicates that what students need to answer 14 questions out of a random 20 or 90 questions out of 128. It's not clear. The bill states that the USNH institution shall establish procedures to administer, certify, and record results of the assessment for students needing to satisfy the requirement. We are aware that when the DOE took on this task for the high schools, it cost them $400,000. And the information system at the university, by the way, it doesn't task the university who's going to administer this test and keep track of this. And now it's been made, if we pass this, it's going to be more complicated, because if a student doesn't use one option and fails, maybe they'll opt for another option. I think that we should settle the first point first, that the university system should control what their graduation requirements are. That's a fundamental thing that they have to do, not have the legislature intervene, because you run the risk of political intervention and politicizing education, which is not a good thing. And I think this, and so that's why I'm opposed to this bill, and I think we should ITL it. I don't question the sponsor's motives, but I think this would be not the thing to do. Thank you.
Representative Kofal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think we're maybe reading a little bit too much into the difficulty of teaching this material to students. I recall when the first hearing happened, I went through and took the test, and I was left with the impression that everybody in this room should get 100% on that test. It's pretty straightforward. So just looking at some of the questions, it's what are the two major political parties in the United States? What is the political party of the president right now? Who makes the laws in the United States? Who vetoes? What is the highest court in the United States? These are questions that every high school student should know. I think a lot of junior high school students will and should know. If students are not able to answer these questions and we're giving them college degrees, we are doing something wrong. So I think we're overthinking this. I think it is very straightforward. I think that the fiscal note on this is a stretch. And I think that this is something that really is a lot simpler. I think the intent is good. It's simple, it's straightforward, and I think it's a good bill and we should move forward with it.
Representative McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Representative Moffat's pet project, and he sent around a 10-question version sample that was printed in the Washington Post. And unfortunately, both he and I only got 9 right out of 10. And we were wrong on the same question in the same way, which was, in what year did women get the vote? The 19th Amendment. And so we both thought it was 1919, but it was actually 1920.
That's right.
So anyway. So even he is not perfect.
I'd have gotten that wrong too. I would have said 1919.
Representative Burton.
One of the problematic questions on here is who are your two state? One of the problematic questions is who are your 2 state senators? Now, this test is going to be taken by out-of-state students, and we're going to pay for it because the in-state students have already taken it in high school. Now, one of the questions that they ask is, who are your 2 senators? Now, if I'm from Massachusetts and I'm living in New Hampshire, what do I say? They'll probably go back, they'll probably say Massachusetts. But the form they fill out to take the test will probably say New Hampshire. So they'll get the question wrong. Yeah, there are some questions I question, like name one war fought by the United States in the 1900s. World War I, II, Korea, Vietnam, or Persia. Well, they ought to divide that up. How many declared wars had the United States done? And that is confusing. I still. There's one really good one about the President of the United States. I don't know if you saw that one. Why are they limited to 2 terms? So not to gain too much power. That's the correct answer. And that's a good thing for people to know at the moment, right? You don't have to have a test to know that. Thank you for your.
Further discussion, Representative Damon.
Thank you. I will be voting against this for the primary reason that it is not our role as legislators to dictate to the university system what and how they teach. That's their job. we need boundaries.
Further discussion? Yes, Representative Fellows?
So I'm thinking that if you're going to pass this, that it needs a lot of work. For example, if one of the options is to take a civics course, then I think that the colleges and the university are going to have to offer a civics course because you'll have out-of-state students. Where are they supposed to get a course from? And I think you've got two people describing differently what the testing means. Some people are suggesting that it's only 10 or 12 questions, whatever, and I would read this to say that it's a test of 128 questions. So I think this needs more work if you're going to pass it, which I wouldn't vote for, but anyway, if you're going to do it better.
Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chairman Spilsbury,
Yes.
Rep. McGuire,
Yes.
Rep. Erf,
Yes.
Rep. Kofalt,
Yes.
Rep. Colcom,
Yes.
Rep. Popovich,
Yes.
Rep. Brown, yes. Rep. Mahigan,
Yes.
Rep. Peoples,
Yes.
Rep. Damon,
No.
Rep. Ames,
No.
Rep. Burton,
No.
Rep. Fellows,
No?
Rep. Hall,
No.
Rep. Bricky,
No.
Rep. Kretian,
No.
and Rep. Weinstein.
No.
10-8 passes.
Wait a minute. And-
Oh, excuse me, Rep.
Yeah,
Ladd.
yes.
Chairman Ladd.
Yep.
Yes.
Surprised us.
Okay, so the motion on the amendment 3095H passes. And now I'm looking for another motion. Pardon me? Oh, I thought that was just the amendment. Yeah, now we have to vote on House ought to be as amended. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, yeah.
So that was just on the amendment.
That was just on the amendment, so we need to have, the OTBA amendment,
Got it.
a motion.
So as amended. Vice Chair,
No. Representative Cobalt,
Mr. Chair, I move OTPA.
I'll second that. Okay, so now on that motion, we have made by Representative Cobalt, second by Ladd, OTPA.
okay.
And now we go for the vote. Or any further discussion? Is any discussion from the maker of the motion? None? None from either. Any further discussion? Okay.
Vice Chair Spilsbury,
Yes.
Rep. McGuire,
Yes.
Rep. Erf,
Yes.
Rep. Kofalt,
Yes.
Rep. Colcom,
Yes.
Rep. Popovich,
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahigan,
Yes.
Rep. Peoples,
Yes.
Rep. Damon,
No.
Rep. Ames,
No.
Rep. Burton,
No.
Rep. Fellows,
No?
Rep. Hall,
No.
Rep. Bricky,
No.
Rep. Kretian,
No.
Rep. Weinstein,
No.
and Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
10-8.
Thank you very much. We will close that one down and go
To reports.
Yeah,
Representative
and we gotta have these reports in by
Tuesday afternoon.
Tuesday afternoon, yes.
Tuesday afternoon.
Tuesday afternoon. Who's gonna write that? Representative Burton? And
Appropriately, I'll be in Vienna.
Representative Brown, do you want to write that or do you want me to write it for you? I'll
If
write-
you'd
I'll
like,
write
that would
for
be
you.
awesome.
I'll write it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just in the Finance Committee, we tend to accept amendments by show of hands and then roll call vote for the motion. You might save time if you want
Yeah,
to
we
use
may
that.
have some time if we have to. We're getting there. I know it. Okay, let's go on to the next one, 295. Making school building aid program funds non-lapsing, 295.
I think
I'll make a
that's
motion.
me.
Wait a minute, hold on. Okay, I'd like to recognize Representative McGuire for a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move up in expedient to legislate on House Bill 295.
Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Popovich seconds that motion. Motion made by Representative McGuire. Representative McGuire, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this bill probably has very little practical effect because we don't have, we haven't been allocating much money at all for school building aid. However, I'm just opposed to it in principle because when money is unspent from one particular biennium, it doesn't make sense to pre-spend it for a subsequent biennium, right? Each biennium is a separate problem, and the finance committees and other committees have to deal with it, and priorities change, and the situation changes, what we have available, what we need, and so on. And so having money sort of pre-spent, which is what non-lapsing really means, is simply a bad idea.
Further discussion? Representative Cahill, we're in executive session. So hand down. From the second, is there any further discussion? No. Representative Fellows.
Thank you. So I support this bill because it would make it possible to fund an additional small project every couple of years. The projects that are normally funded, state building aid covers between 30 and 60% of the cost. And while most of the grants are substantial, there are some smaller ones that could benefit from this. If the state budget appropriates enough money so we do have some new projects, which is not something we've been seeing at the end of the biennium, there would probably be a balance left over of $1 million. It could easily be $1 million or more because we're talking about large budget items. It's not like a regular account that you see in the budget where, there are small things you can, buy office supplies and smaller projects. These projects are big lumps of money, so it's quite possible that there will be some left over. And there are many projects on the waiting list, and I just think that this extra money could actually result in a school getting some extra money. And the state completely has defaulted on its responsibility to provide money for school building aid for many years now, so it's about time we can do just a little bit to help them.
Further discussion? Yes, Representative.
Thank you. I want to first agree with Representative McGuire that the amount that we allocate for school building aid is grossly inadequate. Or at least, I don't know if that was what you said, but
I wouldn't make that value judgment, but yeah.
it's definitely not enough. But even a small amount can be beneficial. And I think to comment on what Representative Bello said, that's not a hypothetical. We heard testimony from people in the DOE and I can't remember where else, but we heard testimony about projects that were, $700,000. So it's not a hypothetical situation. It's something that's affecting communities. Thank you.
Representative Damon.
Thank you. The perspective that I would emphasize is that this isn't extra funding. This is funding that was already appropriated for building aid. And it's just not enough for one of the larger projects in a given year. But the cumulative effect over a year or two or three of putting the small amounts of quote unquote leftover building aid into one pool so that a small project can be completed does not seem at all to me to violate our biennial budget process. If anything, I think it is more respectful of the process that the funds stay allocated for the purpose for which they were originally allocated, that they stay in building aid. So I would be OTP.
Representative Popovich?
If I may, I just want to make a small correction because I've heard this repeatedly described as a small pool that keeps getting bigger as we accumulate money and then it will get to be good enough for a small project. This is not how retained funds work. If we have 50 million and we spend 49.9, we get 100,000 rolling over. Fine. Next year we have 50.1. We'll probably spend 50 and it will still be 100K rolling over, or it could be even less, or it could be more. So there is no process through which this is guaranteed to get bigger. I just want to correct that since it seems to be an assumption I heard multiple times. If I misunderstood, then let it just be a general statement about how this works. But basically, I don't think this is a good idea because it's bad practice to save money that you didn't spend this year. It's better to return it all to the general fund. The legislature is perfectly capable next year to say, hey, last year we couldn't spend $1 million. If we put it in this year because we saved it on the back end, we can carry it on. But we also may have the choice of not doing so. We shouldn't try to obligate further legislators this way.
Any further discussion? So we have a motion. Yes, Representative McGuire?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to explain something about the budget because lapsing money is a regular part of the budget. So we know that every year 2 to 3% or something like that of the budget goes unspent, and we plan for that. So if we estimate that we have $7 billion worth of revenue, we actually spend in the budget $7 billion plus 2.5%. Because we anticipate that there's going to be lapses, and there are, because somebody might retire and it takes you a couple of months to fill that job, so there's some money for salary that doesn't get spent and so on. I mean, other kinds of projects, you anticipate doing a project, you don't end up doing it, there's money that's unspent. And so because it's sort of averaged over a giant amount of money, that lapsed money is spent. I mean, it's anticipated and it's in the budget. So sort of less lapsing is kind of contrary to the way the budget's put together.
Okay, I'd like to move into a little faster here so we crank it up here a little bit. Is there any further discussion which is going to diverge from what we've already communicated? Fine. So we do have a motion on the table. The motion is to ITL HB 295. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chair Spilsbury.
Yes.
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Erf.
Yes.
Rep. Kofalt.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovici.
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahegan.
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon.
No.
Rep. Ames.
No.
Rep. Burton.
No.
Rep. Fellows.
No.
Rep. Hall.
No.
Rep. Bricky.
No.
Rep. Prithian.
No.
Rep. Weinstein.
No.
And Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
10-8.
Okay, the motion passes. Going on to the next bill, which, pardon me?
Reports.
Yeah, once again, reports.
Representative Fellows.
Fellows, okay. And McGuire. Okay. Okay, going on to the next bill, here we have HB 366, relative to school building aid for eligible projects. 366, and I believe we do have an amendment on that one as well, so. When we had a subcommittee meeting on 3.6, the motion was presented to us on 3.6.6 to ITL, that building aid bill. However, I think we have another motion that's coming forward, and I'd like to recognize Representative Erth.
Move OTP.
Okay, is there a second for OTP on that? Representative Popovich, so Madam Clerk, made by Representative Erf and second by Representative Popovich to OTP HB 366, Representative Erf?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move a motion number 2, amendment number 2025-3082H.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Representative Erf and second by Representative Popovich to approve amendment, what was the number again?
2025-3082H.
Amendment 302H.
No, 3082.
82H, okay. Representative Erf?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this amendment at a high level essentially returns our process of evaluating requests for school budget aid to what it was in the biennium before, the prior biennium to this one. Currently, so the law was changed in the prior biennium to this one, and the law as it currently stands, the Department of Education does the analysis applies the rubric to basically code or assign a number to a value to every proposal that's come in. But rather than simply ordering them from highest priority to lowest priority, those from the prior year that are still in the queue are pushed up to the top, and then any new ones are prioritized below those, regardless of how high their priority coding is. So that's the way it works today, to the extent that there's money available. What this replace all amendment does is go back to the way it had been, so that every biennium, all the projects, whether they're new or old, are prioritized in order of the priority as calculated by the Department of Education. And then I should follow, for those who aren't familiar with the process, once the Department of Education has done that, that then goes to a commission whose name I can't escape. The School Building Authority Commission, which consists of a legislator who's Representative Hill, actually the chair now, but it also includes representatives from the Department of Education, I think, and the State Department of Education, and some others. I think there's 5 people on there.
State Fire Marshal.
The State Fire Marshal, okay. And they all get together and come up with a final recommendation for, not a recommendation, I guess it's the final, how the money's going to go out. So this amendment to the bill changes the prioritization back to the way it had been essentially, 4 years ago? Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Representative Bricky, you have your hand up?
Yeah. So I'm concerned about the original bill was about increasing the amount from 50 million to 60 million. Is that gone?
Yes.
So there's no money at all? So how do we know how much money will be appropriated? I'm asking a question.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. This is not appropriation. This is simply changing the methodology back to the way the methodology had been previously.
It's not touching up to $50 million. That's still there.
Where?
Not in this page right here, but it's in the current law. We're not replacing that.
Okay. But we're not increasing it either.
That's correct. It's not more than 50, it's not 60, it's just keeping it where it is now, up to 50.
Okay. So it changed the whole intent of the bill. Okay.
But to be clear, right, RSA 198-15A, Roman numeral 4 is not changed by the amendment.
Yes.
I just want to speak to the original intent of the bill. And because I think that an adequate education includes safe and sufficient school facilities. The moratorium on school building aid didn't erase the needs of many districts in the state. Communities like Newmarket, where I'm from, faced serious fire and life safety issues, and fear of losing accreditation, forcing them to act, even though there wasn't aid available. And that was part of this original bill. The state should be a reliable partner in funding education. But instead, communities in our state spent over $537 million during the moratorium, which was shouldered entirely by property taxpayers. So this bill, as originally written, would have provided a small amount of relief to communities across the state. Thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, Representative Damon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would echo Representative Weinstein's concerns in regards to removing the modest increase in building aid funding that was proposed in the original bill. And I would further express that I am puzzled and concerned with the requirement in the amendment for districts who were approved, their project was approved, but they were not funded because of not enough funds available in a given year, that then they need to start all over again, not be prioritized in the queue in the coming cycle. Their needs didn't go away. If anything, they may well have become exacerbated. I could understand a requirement to say update the cost of your project, because costs certainly are changing in the building industry all the time. But to say you need to start over, submit your proposal again is a unnecessary exercise, and I vigorously object to removing that prioritizing.
Representative Popovich.
First, I would say that before we put more money into the process, we have to fix this system that has a few perennial winners and very, very many perennial losers. This is not equitable the way we distribute building aid today. If you go back and look at the history of it, a few districts tend to win often and the vast majority of them never see a dime. So that's one thing about it. I'm open to discussing it, but I'm not just going to put more money into a system that's inequitable. Two, this is not asking anybody to reapply. It merely says that the Department of Education will re-rank. If you look, the email from Tim Carney, basically points out that there is a school in the previous year that has a score of 238. There is a school this year that got 523. According to the current rules, the people with a lesser need will get funded first because they were the first in queue. How is that fair? How is that okay? If we are going to do this by need, well, then we need to reassess the need every year. If we are going to do it by who gets in first, fine. Let's go, and the people who get in line 5 years later will get funded 30 years from now, and it will be useless to them. We cannot just, we got to make up our mind what we're doing. I think this is a movement in the right direction. It's nowhere near close to fixing the issues with the building aid, but at least it does make it more fair. And I think we all should agree that this is a good change.
Further discussion, Representative Fellows.
Thank you. The original bill is an amendment to 198:15A, Roman numeral 4. This amendment doesn't have any of that RSA in here, and it amends 198:15C, Roman numeral 2. What's going on in this bill is making changes that never received any public hearing. We didn't get, so we have had no input about this, who gets priority, who's at the top of the list. And we don't have any input from the Department of Education about the significance of this. And particularly, I need to understand what this new provision that talks about resubmitting the project means. Does that mean they have to go back and refigure the prices? They have to, pay for an architect again? We have none of that information because this never had a hearing. So I don't think it's appropriate to put this statute through an amendment like this.
Okay, just to clarify some facts for you, that this amendment is amending a subparagraph in the same area of statute which the bill addressed initially. And we have passed it through the clerk and the speaker. It is germane. It's in the same area. And I'd also like to add to this conversation that when this legislation was initially written, and I was the author, and I did it in conjunction with the Commissioner of Education in the state of Maine, Commissioner Duke Albanese. And the way it was initially set up was that each biennium, the applications which were not funded would be mixed in with the new applications and rank ordered accordingly. If an application had been submitted before, it still has the priorities or the rating scale that was done out of the, now it's 1,000 points. Your points would just go in and it would add right in. But we do have some applications which are in that list right now, in the queue, that have far less priority than those that are coming in to have some of the needs of their school. Is the demographic has either increased, or there are safety issues there, or there's handicap accessible issues in that school that need attention and address. Those applications need to move forward. Now, we do have what the engineer over the Department of Education, when Amy Clark was here, there was another section which is struck out here where if it was seen as a significant need, it would add into that queue. But we're looking now at a broader range of applications are coming in as we initially did when this whole package was put together. That's what, 10 years ago or so. So I think this is in conjunction with our initial intent, and I see no problems with it. Further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on this amendment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So I just wanted to point out the word resubmit is in existing law.
Yeah.
So it's not a new thing. It's there in Part E. It says may resubmit, et cetera. So people do that all the time, I guess. So.
And there is a date for resubmittal, and we had, what, was it 3 or 4 that were resubmitted to get back on into the queue? And so that was done by school districts. So I think it's fair what this is saying, and it's fair to all schools that are now wanting this building aid. And I would concur with everybody. That's an area we get to look at. And I've also been an advocate that we got to be looking at appropriating dollars for school construction, just not new construction, but the majority of it coming down the road is going to be reconstruction, where it's 25% of the project costs, where we have a lot of schools that are getting older, but they can construct or reconstruct sections of that school that get it up to par where it needs to be in meeting codes. So we ought to be thinking about, we have a separate for leasing of buildings, but we don't have anything for the separation as some states do. They have a reconstruction pot, they have a new construction pot. And with the limited dollars we have in the state, it's going to be very difficult to do that. When, especially in many of these small districts now, we're also looking at consolidation. As we've heard in the news recently of going from 3 elementary schools to 2. Well, that takes money. Also, if you look at Colebrook, when they closed down one school and they moved into a middle school which didn't have the chemistry labs and all that, they had to reconstruct to facilitate the consolidation of their students into the buildings they had, rather than building brand new. So there's much we have to do on it, but I think this is a step forward in trying to clean up the application process. Representative Damon.
We would like a 3-minute caucus, please.
Yes, go ahead. to continue on here, I believe we were in the middle of HB 366, and we were discussing had we voted on the amendment yet? No. So we got to vote on that amendment. And who put forth that motion?
I did.
And it's been seconded.
It's been seconded, yes.
So is there any further discussion on the amendment?
We were literally in the voting mode.
We're in the voting mode on HB 366, dealing with building aid, the application process. Yes.
We were past that point.
I'm going to vote against it. I'm voting against it because of substantive reasons, but the main leading reason is that this has not been processed as an amendment of this sort, which is really a complete amendment to the original bill. Hasn't there's been no opportunity for public review and input.
Okay, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, will you not call the roll, please?
Vice Chairman Spilsbury.
Yes.
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Erf.
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovich.
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahagan.
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon.
No.
Rep. Ames.
No.
Rep. Burton.
No.
Rep. Fellows.
No.
Rep. Hall.
No.
Rep. Bricky.
No.
Rep. Chrétien.
No.
Rep. Weinstein.
No.
Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
10-8 passes.
Representative Earp, you're recognized for a motion.
I move OTPA.
Second.
So there's a motion made by Representative Earp, second by Representative Popovich. The motion's OTPA for 366. Further discussion? Not seeing any? Any on the minority side? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chairman Spilsbury.
Yes.
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Erf.
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovich.
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahagan.
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon.
No.
Rep. Ames.
No.
Rep. Burton.
No.
Rep. Fellows.
No.
Rep. Hall.
No.
Rep. Bricky.
No.
Rep. Chrétien.
No.
Rep. Weinstein.
No.
Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
10-8 passes.
Next bill is HB, yeah, they're doing the reports, Earth and
Rep. Weinstein.
Weinstein, okay. Okay. The next bill coming down the line is 443, relative terms of appointed members on the Higher Education Commission. I'd like to hand the gavel over and make a motion, hand the gavel over to you, Mr. Representative Spilsbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm opening the executive session on HB 443 and recognize Representative Ladd for a motion.
I make a motion of ITL on HB 433.
ITL is the motion, second by Representative Burton. Oh, no, I'm looking for a second. Representative Popovich Miller. Okay, I'll recognize Representative Ladd first, and then.
Thank you very much. This was one bill that was in subcommittee, and it came out of the subcommittee 7-0 to ITL it. We've been told by folks that put it in that it's no longer needed, that if a person doesn't show up in that commission and exercise their responsibilities, then they can be replaced. And we don't need legislation to do that. Thank you.
Representative Burton.
I concur with.
Very good, very agreeable. Any other comments? Okay, there being no further comments, clerk can take the roll.
Who's the second on that?
Who seconded that?
It was seconded by Representative Popovich Miller.
Okay.
ITL, Vice Chair Spilsbury.
Yes.
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Erf.
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovich.
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahagan.
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon.
Yes.
Rep. Ames.
Yes.
Rep. Burton.
Yes.
Rep. Fellows.
Yes.
Rep. Hall.
Yes.
Rep. Bricky?
Yes.
Rep. Chrétien?
Yes.
Rep. Weinstein?
Yes.
Chairman Ladd?
Yes.
18-0.
Okay, the vote being 18-0, ITL is the committee's motion, and I assume that can be put on consent. Any objections? Consent calendar. Okay. Thank you. That closes exec session on HB 433.
So we will then enter into HB 491, establishing a committee to study alternative funding methods for public education and how to reduce its reliance on local real estate property taxes. And with that, I'd like to recognize Representative Spilsbury.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ITL on HB 491.
Second.
So we have a motion for on HB 491 ITL from Representative Spilsbury and second by Representative McGuire. Representative Spilsbury, do you have any discussion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is my bill. I sponsored it. Obviously, I'm the key advocate for a deliberative process that forces us with our Senate colleagues and colleagues from other committees to resolve the issues involving the intense pressure of real estate property taxes on property poor towns. I'm assured in discussions with a number of my colleagues and in the subcommittee that this committee will do that in the coming year. And I think that, in fact, this is our chance to justify the existence of a separate education funding committee. So let's look at both sides of the equation, not just where's the money being distributed to, but where's the money coming from, and resolve both sides, I hope, in a single bill. So I have put in an LSR along those lines, and I'm persuaded that that's the better path for us to take in 2026. If we fail to do that in 2026, then we'll probably need something like this.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Representative Ames.
Well, I welcome the remarks of my esteemed colleague, and basically agree with the original proposal for a process that addresses the issues that he referenced. And really, for that reason, I come out the other way. I think that this bill should not be ITL'd, and will vote against that. And I am expecting that there will be proposals before the legislature, before the House, in this next several month period of time that will go forward with this basic concept of looking at options for addressing a need that is constitutionally based and based as well in the realities of our public schools today. So for those reasons, given that context, I will definitely be opposing the ITL.
Thank you. Are there other members like to discuss this? Not seeing any hands, Madam Clerk, we're ready when you're ready to call the roll.
Vice Chairman Spilsbury.
Yes.
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Erf.
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovich.
Yes.
Rep. Brown, yes. Rep. Mahagan.
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon.
No.
Rep. Ames.
No.
Rep. Burton.
No.
Rep. Fellows.
No.
Rep. Hall.
No.
Rep. Bricky.
No.
Rep. Chrétien.
No.
Rep. Weinstein.
No.
Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
10-8 passes.
Okay, so the motion made on 491 was to ITL in the past 10-8. Moving on down to,
I'll write the report.
oh, and the reports, I'm sure, Representative Ames.
The no side.
Yes, okay, gotcha.
So he's
He's, yeah, he's voting for the other opposite, yeah. Okay. Okay, next one down. Next one down on the list is HB 510. This is relative to establishing certain due process rights for students, student organizations, and faculty members facing disciplinary actions by state institutions of higher learning. Okay. Okay, I look to Representative Popovich for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion of OTP for HB 510.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made by Representative Popovich, second by Representative McGuire. The motion is OTP for 510.
If I may.
Representative Popovich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to adopt Amendment 3092H for HB 510.
Second.
So we have an amendment put forth, which is 3092H by Representative Popovich and second by Representative McGuire. Representative Popovich?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to briefly say that while I understand that the amendment in itself may not change the mind of the colleagues that oppose this bill, it is designed to address some of the concerns that were heard through the many hearings on this topic. It fixes an inconsistency in the way we defined certain terms, and it, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Never mind. So I will stick to it fixes inconsistencies and issues that were found through the hearings, and I would urge everybody to support it.
Further discussion. Representative Burton.
Are you proposing the amendment now?
Yes, this is the amendment
We are discussing the
discussion.
amendment.
Okay, I'll speak to the amendment. Certainly that makes a terrible bill better because the original bill would have someone who was victimized by a perpetrator, have the perpetrator have the right to question that person. Nothing could be more intimidating or unjust, and this amendment helps the bill, though I'm opposed to the bill after that. And we'll speak to it.
Further discussion?
You may just have a minute because we just got this. Haven't read it.
I can explain what's
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. The amendment we had already approved, remember we approved the definitions
Right.
for disciplinary proceeding, faculty member, public institution, student, that type of stuff, that from the preceding year, we had done that. So we have similar language rather, and here we are with the recodifying. We don't have two problems within close chapters. The due process, as Representative Burton mentioned, that when you're cross-examining, the person being accused does not have the opportunity to cross-examine the victim. And the reason for that is that when we asked the department to help us out with that in subcommittee, we went to the attorney there, and the attorney went down to the firm which deals with Title IX issues in Boston and contract to the department and came back with language which we immediately put into the bill here. So that's been clarified and cleaned up, as Representative Burton had alluded to. There's another part, I'm trying to find it right now, where we chopped this in.
Line 16, 17.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
I can help. It's line 15. We modify the word may to shall.
yeah, we
What
did.
page?
Yeah, that's on the second page.
Oh, sorry. Yes, second page.
Other words, that you have a hearing officer and you have a panel, and
That's line 9, sorry.
and appointing a person, a third party, to represent the person that's being accused of this. So the accuser is not cross-examining. It read the panel may appoint, or the hearing officer may appoint. We corrected that and say that person shall appoint another third party to do that cross-examination. But there was one other part I'm trying to reference here where we shorten the sentence up to just the first few words.
It's probably at the bottom of page 2, the paragraph Roman numeral 2. I think it was in the 27 to 32 line area, where we removed some language that was recommended to be removed.
I can tell you exactly in a second here.
Was the definition of student organizations and
Mr. Chair, while you're looking for that, may I speak to the
Yes,
definition that we were? Basically, early in our discussions on this, people realized that there were slightly different definitions for those terms that conflicted with legislation we passed last year. And in the interest of having uniform definitions, the amendment is just referring to those existing chapters of law instead of redefining it in a slightly different term. Those changes are in the amendment. You'll find them on lines 14 through 17, page 1.
And the part that I was referencing too is that it said the right against self-incrimination, provided, however, that the invocation of this right may afford a basis for the decision maker to draw an adverse inference against the person who does so. We were advised by the Title IX people to say the right against self-incrimination, period. And leaving the rest of that sentence, deleting it so that it's a real concern the rest of it violated, I believe, Title IX. So those were the changes, which we also changed dates, right? No, that was another bill. So those are the changes to this. It made the bill, as Representative Burton said, a better bill. Whatever. Any further discussion? So we're dealing with the amendment right now.
Is there a page 3 to the amendment?
No, it goes back to, let's see,
So it just ends on line 34 and the rest of the
Bill takes over. Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. Yeah, I had that question myself earlier. Effective date and all that second page is, last page is there. Any further discussion
on the amendment?
on the amendment? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on the amendment? The amendment is for 510, it's 3092H.
Vice Chairman Spilsbury.
Yes?
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Urf.
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovici.
Yes.
Rep. Brown, yes. Rep. Mahegan.
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon.
Yes.
Rep. Ames.
Yes.
Rep. Burton.
Yes.
Rep. Bellows.
Yes.
Rep. Hall.
Yes.
Rep. Bricky.
Yes.
Rep. Christian.
Yes.
Rep. Weinstein.
Yes.
Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
18-0.
Representative Popovich, would you like to make a motion, please?
Yes, I would like to change my motion to OTPA for HB 510 with amendment 3092H.
Is there a second? I'll second that. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I honestly believe that we've spoken so much on this bill that everything that was said, I already said. I'm good. Looking forward to voting.
Further discussion on the other side? Yes, Representative Burton.
This bill represents the most egregious invasion of what a university system should have control over. It's the basic process of due process. And this bill would do many negative things. I can read them off. But what really bothers me is the sponsor of this bill never gave us the reason why he submitted it. Until right at the very end, he said that he suspects that the processes of the university system have some gaps in them. I can't find one. We've had people look at this. The University of New Hampshire, the system, they're under the U.S. Department of Education, the Federal Office of Civil Rights, Title IX. Were they to violate the provisions of Title IX in any way, students and faculty members can sue in a state court. The New Hampshire Human Rights Commission provides protections to employees. The bill would unilaterally replace mutually agreed upon provisions in collective bargaining agreements upon expiration of the contract. The community, excuse me, the agreements represent mutual agreements and balancing of responsibility, cost obligations. They are all interrelated and whole. This bill changes one element without respect to the whole fabric of related provisions that have been worked out between the parties. This should be left to the university. The cost of renegotiating contracts that would have to happen, and the fact that, as far as I can tell, excuse me, the university's processes are of the highest order for a reason. Those of us in higher education believe we should model behavior we'd like to see in the greatest society, just like this legislature does. And that's why we'd like to keep our processes as examples of fair, even-handed processes in the universities and the colleges in the state. That the sponsor of this bill could not offer one shred of information as to when due process wasn't followed should concern us, because the price of passing this bill is so great. An intrusion into the university's ability to govern themselves, and at great cost, because all the collective bargaining agreements would have to be redone, because they've already agreed upon this. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll? This is on HB 510 as amended with 3092H.
Vice Chair Spilsbury.
Yes?
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Erb.
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovich.
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahegan.
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon.
No.
Rep. Ames.
No.
Rep. Burton.
No.
Rep. Bellows.
No.
Rep. Hall.
No.
Rep. Ricky.
No.
Rep. Chrétien.
No.
Rep. Weinstein.
No.
Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
10-8 passes.
I would assume, is Representative Burton going to write that, or is somebody else going to write it?
I will write it, sir.
Okay, thank you. And then Representative Popovich, you're going to write that one? Okay, so we're moving on to the next bill now that's on the docket here. HB 651, modifying the base cost and differentiated costs of an adequate education. I look to Representative Spilsbury for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move ITL on HB 651.
Is there a second? Okay, we have a motion made by Representative Spilsbury on 651 ITL, made by Representative Spilsbury and seconded by Representative Peoples. Representative Spilsbury, do you care to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. This bill from Representative Luno addresses two things. First, the allowances in our adequacy formula, both for base adequacy and for the differentiated aid categories. And it also makes small changes in the definition of the elements of an adequate education. The reason why the subcommittee voted to recommend ITL, and why I'm going to vote for ITL, is that we have a number of bills that give us a path forward on both these two avenues. We will have bills on the adequacy formula that may be that include bills that will go more fundamentally into it. I think that there's certainly ample discussion that could be had about the $7,356.01 figure. We know where it came from. But it's not obvious that you would then just simply extrapolate from that a 1.73 multiplier and apply it to free and reduced and ESL and special ed categories. I know that we have another bill coming down on the elements of adequate education. So without trying to necessarily say that the bill, goes in the wrong direction or the right direction, it's just simply not helpful to our work. We have a deeper path to take in January, so this is not ready to come to the floor January 7th with an OTP motion. It doesn't serve us to interim study it. And it doesn't mean that we're kicking the can down the road or ignoring the issue. It just means we have other paths that are more productive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there yes, Representative Ames?
Just to speak for a moment on the other side, we do have a constitutional obligation that's at stake here, and this bill takes a stab at rectifying the situation by turning to what the judiciary has done thus far, and would raise considerably the numbers that are currently in statute to levels that would meet our constitutional obligations. There's much more work to do. I totally agree with that. There are options that need to be considered. I totally agree with that, but I do not favor rejecting this bill out of hand the way an ITL would. So I oppose the ITL.
Thank you very much. Further discussion? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chairman Spilsbury,
Yes?
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Erf.
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovici.
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahegan.
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon.
No.
Rep. Ames.
No.
Rep. Burton.
No.
Rep. Fellows.
No.
Rep. Hall.
No.
Rep. Bricky.
No.
Rep. Chrétien.
No.
Rep. Weinstein.
No.
Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
10-8 passes.
Thank you very much. Who's going to do the writing on that? Same folks, Representative Ames down there and Representative Spilsbury here. Thank you. Okay. Next bill on the docket is 656, relative to the authority of the local school districts to accept federal grants. And we had a previous discussion about that earlier here in our work session today, so I'm not going to get into a whole lot on it right now. I am simply going to hand the gavel over and make a motion.
Okay, so I'm opening the executive session on 656 and recognize Representative Ladd.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion of OTP.
OTP is the motion. Second from Representative Popovici-Moore. Representative Ladd, please speak to your motion.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Amendment 2933H to 656 and ask that that be amended to the bill.
So that's, you're moving the
Yes, I'm
amendment?
moving that motion. Yes.
Okay, I have a motion for the amendment. Second. Representative Popovici-Moore seconds. And please speak to your amendment.
I believe we've had discussion already during the work session today, so I'm going to, defer on that.
Okay, anybody else wishing to speak to? Yes, Representative Damon.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge that I will be voting against the amendment as much because of the rushed process and the lack of public hearing and input from the multiple stakeholders involved in this. I don't think we're ready.
Okay, understood. Any other comments to the amendment? Okay, there being no further comments, the clerk can call the roll on the amendment. And this is Amendment 2933H.
Chairman Spilsbury,
Yes?
Rep. McGuire,
Yes.
Rep. Erf,
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovici.
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahegan,
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon,
No.
Rep. Ames.
No.
Rep. Burton,
No.
Rep. Fellows,
No.
Rep. Hall,
No.
Rep. Bricky,
No.
Rep. Chrétien,
No.
Rep. Weinstein,
No.
and Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
10-8 passes.
Okay, 10-8, the amendment is adopted, and Representative Ladd, would you?
Yes, I'd like to make the motion of OTPA with Amendment 2933H.
Okay, we have a motion, seconded by Representative Kofalt.
And I don't
further
care.
discussion?
I don't further, and no further discussion from me.
All set? Anybody else? Good, okay. It's already been hashed out. So the clerk, when you're ready, you can call the roll on the bill as amended.
I won't start with you this time. Rep. McGuire,
Yes.
Rep. Erf,
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom,
Yes.
Rep. Popovici,
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahegan,
Yes.
Rep. Peoples,
Yes.
Rep. Damon,
No.
Rep. Ames,
No.
Rep. Burton,
No.
Rep. Fellows,
No.
Rep. Hall,
No.
Rep. Bricky,
No.
Rep. Chrétien,
No.
Rep. Weinstein,
No.
Chairman Ladd,
Yes.
Chairman Spilsbury.
Yes.
10-8 passes.
Okay, 10-8. The bill is passed, and who's going to write the minority report? Representative Damon and Representative Ladd.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Next bill up is HB 665, relative to eligibility for free school meals. HB 665.
Mr. Chair.
And I'd like to recognize Representative McGuire for a motion.
No, it's Representative Popovich, I think.
Well,
has-
that's Representative Popovich.
Thank you.
Well, you both have Dan in it.
I know. And he's almost hyphenated too. I would like to make a motion of ITL for HB 665.
Second.
So we have a motion made on HB 665, eligibility for free and reduced meals, made by Representative Popovich and second by Representative McGuire. Representative Popovich.
Thank you. I want to keep this brief and remind people that I've been dealing with this topic for 3 years ever since I joined the legislature. And in all those 3 years, not one person was able to testify about one child in a school being denied a meal because of their inability to pay. At the end of the day, every kid that goes in a school and asks for a meal gets a meal, regardless of their ability to pay. Since this bill won't feed one more child, it seems hardly worth it to justify spending millions of dollars. That may be, more or less millions, but at the end of the day, it is millions any way you look at it, when nobody has yet to show the first building block to justify this bill. Thank you.
Representative Dame.
I would simply state that in the absence of an adequate systemic way to assure that children are fed adequately and routinely, when children are getting meals because teachers are buying them, because people are filling in the gaps, that is not an adequate system, and it is a sad day in America.
Further discussion? Not seeing any, yes, Representative Hall.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think as I listen to these different bills, it seems like we can find money when we want to find money. And I think feeding needy kids should always be a priority, period. Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any further. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chairman Spilsbury.
Yes.
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Erf.
Yes.
Rep. Kofal.
Yes.
Rep. Colcom.
Yes.
Rep. Popovici.
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahegan.
Yes.
Rep. Peoples.
Yes.
Rep. Damon.
No.
Rep. Ames.
No.
Rep. Burton.
No.
Rep. Fellows?
No.
Rep. Hall?
No.
Rep. Bricky?
No.
Rep. Chrétien?
No.
Rep. Weinstein?
No.
Chairman Ladd?
Yes.
10-8 passes.
Thank you very much. HB 729, making an appropriation to the Department of Education for an attorney to recodify the education laws. Representative Popovich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion of interim study for HB 729.
Is there a second for
Second.
interim study?
Second.
Thank you.
So we have a motion made by Representative Popovich.
Was that a second?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay, we'll have Representative Damon make the second then.
Thank you.
Representative Popovich made the motion, second by Representative Damon. Representative Popovich?
Very briefly, we've already talked about this during the work session, and even though this is a place where work needs to get done, it is really not clear that the bill as currently written gives us the solution. And I think taking a bit more time to look at the best way to go forward with this is best. So I would suggest the interim study instead of other motions.
Representative Damon?
I concur.
Thank you very much. So we have a motion on the table for interim study on 729, recodifying the education statutes, made by Representative Popovich and second by Representative Damon. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chairman Spilsbury?
Yes.
Rep. McGuire?
Yes.
Rep. Erf?
Yes.
Rep. Kofal?
Yes.
Rep. Colcom?
Yes.
Rep. Popovici?
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahagan?
Yes.
Rep. Peoples?
Yes.
Rep. Damon?
Yes.
Rep. Ames?
Yes.
Rep. Burton?
Yes.
Rep. Fellows?
Yes.
Rep. Hall?
Yes.
Rep. Bricky?
Yes.
Rep. Chrétien?
Yes.
Rep. Weinstein?
Yes.
Chairman Ladd?
Yes.
18-0 passes.
Thank you. HB 734, relative to the state education property tax and the low and moderate income homeowners property tax relief program. I'd like to recognize on 734, Representative Spilsbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move interim study as was recommended by the subcommittee.
Is there a second to this motion? Representative Ames has seconded that motion, so we have a motion on interim study on the SWEP and homeowner relief bill, made by Representative Spilsbury and second by Representative Ames, both from Ways and Means. Thank you, both folks. So with that, any further discussion from either Representative Spilsbury?
Just very briefly, since 5 of us were on the subcommittee, we were all in concurrence that this bill presents important ideas that we haven't had a chance to focus. We don't want to reject them out of hand. I can see the possibility of elements from this bill being amended into another active bill in 2026. Thank you.
Representative Ames?
Really, I have nothing further to add. It is a bill that I sponsored, and I'm glad to have this recognition for the merits of the concepts that are embedded in the bill, and I hope we can indeed work together to get to a better place on the basically it's the statewide education property tax that's at the heart of this bill, reform of it. So thank you.
Thank you. So, let's see, where are we on that? We're good.
We have an interim study.
Yeah, we're going. So we have an interim study motion here on 734. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Vice Chairman Spilsbury?
Yes.
Rep. McGuire?
Yes.
Rep. Erf?
Yes.
Rep. Kofal?
Yes.
Rep. Colcom?
Yes.
Rep. Popovici?
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahagan?
Yes.
Rep. Peoples?
Yes.
Rep. Damon?
Yes.
Rep. Ames?
Yes.
Rep. Burton?
Yes.
Rep. Fellows?
Yes.
Rep. Hall?
Yes.
Rep. Bricky?
Yes.
Rep. Chrétien?
Yes.
Rep. Weinstein?
Yes.
With Chairman Ladd?
Yes.
18-0 passes.
Okay, we're moving down.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I may ask, would this bill and the previous bill both are 18-0 go on the consent calendar?
Yes, that's what I think Representative Spilsbury is just going to go after. So we would like, any objection to consent on the 7 zeros? Okay, thank you. The next one is 742, Don't, make sure I'm not jumping over anything here. Yeah. 742, requiring catastrophic special education state aid funding to be drawn from the Education Trust Fund. And with that, I'm going to hand the gavel over to Representative Spilsbury.
So opening the executive session on HB 734, I recognize Representative Ladd for a motion. 742. Thank you very much.
742, yeah. There it is. Thank you very much. I'd like to make the motion on 742 interim study.
Okay, motion is interim study.
Second.
Second by Representative McGuire. And would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, this deals with the issue of catastrophic aid or special education aid and the reimbursement to school districts. And as you recall, last year we set the proration amount at 80%. And then this bill is coming in where it's authorizing the governor to draw a warrant from the Education Trust Fund for the full amount if it's not available in the trust fund, and to have the state comptroller transfer said funds from the general fund if the funds aren't in the trust. So with that, I think there's a lot of logic to this. However, I'm offering interim study on this simply because we have a commission looking at and reviewing the costing of special education funds right now, and we have the next meeting coming up on the 21st of the month. And we've had 4 meetings. We're making a lot of progress, a lot of good people on that, from directors to the director of special ed for our state, to legislators, to senators, to business administrators, to a special education advocate will be there this time, and plus parents. We recognize there is a real issue here in terms of funding of this. When we have $34 million appropriated, and we come up with a $16+ million beyond that, and this year I fully expect us to be close to $60 million. So it has to be addressed, but I think we need a real comprehensive review of special education funding totally. Differentiated aid, catastrophic aid, and IDEA monies. And we know, and I won't talk much longer, that we're spending $1 out of every $4 for special ed right now. That's $977 million a year we're spending, and 85% of that is responsibility of the local school district. So that's why I'm introducing interim study.
Could you just tell me those amounts again, the shortfalls you were expecting?
I'm expecting it to be well over. We had to arrive at where we needed to be to get the money to, we would add another $16 million into it. So we're over $50 million. From what it looks like, it's going to be higher. It could be up to 58 million, 60 million. It could be in that neighborhood in years to come. So it's an area that really needs a stiff look at in terms of how we're working with all kinds, like HHS with Medicaid, direct with other aspects of how we're identifying. There are a lot of issues. Yeah. I think you got a hand up down here.
Any further comments? Representative Ames.
Just a quick comment. I think the situation is very difficult for sure. It's also facing threats from the federal level. This is not a partisan statement. It's just the fact that the National Department of Education is peeling off special education obligations and assistance directed to the states, and we're going to have to deal with that. I'm glad that we've got a commission that's going to be working on all of this, and I would say that special education does cost a lot, but we're doing a heck of a lot better on educating our special needs kids today than we were when I started out in this, working on issues like this in the 70s. So let's keep that perspective. and try to capture the gains we've made and make more gains as we go forward. Thank you.
Any further comments, Representative Burton?
Very quick comment. The better we do on special ed in secondary school, the more these students will need help when they go out into the workforce. And I've been involved in those kinds of programs. I think we need employers, because the better we do then, the better they'll do later and become contributing people to our society.
Thank you. I would just add to emphasize the formation of the recent commission really drives the stance of the committee at the moment on this bill and this topic. But I think it's absolutely central to our mission to keep this topic on the docket next year. Okay. Representative Damon.
Thank you. I just wanted to also acknowledge that I very much value the work of the commission, and particularly that it's a commission as opposed to a study committee, so it has a more thorough membership. And I would just like to ask our chair to perhaps provide our committee updates from the commission as we go through our work this session.
I'd be very happy to do that. We had a report we completed on November 1 of the first 3 meetings. I have a very good vice chair working with me, which happens to be the person sitting to your left. And I believe that it's going to be a very interesting meeting on the 21st, believe me. We have some folks coming in and we have a lot of questions for them. And there's going to be a good result that comes out of this. We do know it's something that has to be corrected in our state. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further comments, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll on the interim study motion for HB 742.
Rep. McGuire?
Yes.
Rep. Earth?
Yes.
Rep. Kofal?
Yes.
Rep. Colcom?
Yes.
Rep. Popovici?
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahegan?
Yes.
Rep. Peoples?
Yes.
Rep. Damon?
Yes.
Rep. Ames?
Yes.
Rep. Burton?
Yes.
Rep. Fellows?
Yes.
Rep. Hall?
Yes.
Rep. Bricky?
Yes.
Rep. Christian?
Yes.
Rep. Weinstein?
Yes.
Rep. Ladd?
Yes.
And Chair Spilsbury?
Yes.
18-0.
Okay, vote being 18-0. Without objection, this will go on the consent calendar.
Okay,
And
great.
that
Thank you.
closes the exec session on HB 742.
All right, hopping into 772, establishing a foundation opportunity budget program for funding public education. And I look to Representative Spilsbury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very challenging, I guess I make a motion first, no, pardon.
Yeah,
I move interim study on HB 772.
is there a second on that motion to interim study 772? Pardon me? And it's made by Representative Damon. Representative Spilsbury, would you like to speak to this very lengthy bill, but powerful?
This is a lengthy, complex, challenging bill. It's not the first term that we've had it. We were working on it last year as well. And I think we need to make time in 2026 to start to really parse it out, because there are many different moving parts in the bill. And I'm persuaded that there are some very valuable parts in the bill. So which vehicle we finally ride, I'm not sure, but I think that elements in this bill will be essential to the discussion. Thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, Representative Damon.
Thank you. So this bill is based on the work of the 2020 Commission on Education Funding. It's probably the most comprehensive education funding bill we've seen in, this and the previous iterations of it in a long time. And we really need to do our work and figure out a more equitable funding system. And heard comment in committee earlier on one of the building aid proposals about the need for things to be equitable. I would hope that would extend across this topic as well.
Any further discussion on 772? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? We have a motion of interim study on the adequacy foundation formula, HB 772.
Vice Chairman Spilsbury,
Yes.
Rep. McGuire.
Yes.
Rep. Erf.
Yes.
Rep. Copalt, Rep. Colcom,
Yes.
Rep. Popovici,
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahigan,
Yes.
Rep. Peoples,
Yes.
Rep. Damon,
Yes.
Rep. Ames,
Yes.
Rep. Burton,
Yes.
Rep. Fellows,
Yes.
Rep. Hall,
Yes.
Rep. Bricky,
Yes.
Rep. Chrétien,
Yes.
Rep. Weinstein,
Yes.
and Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
17-0 passes.
Okay, so we'll put that on consent. Any objections? Fine, we're down to the last bill, SB 204. This is relative to the responsibility of local school districts to provide meals to students during school hours, reimbursing schools for meals provided to students at no cost and making an appropriation therefore. I recognize Representative McGuire for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move inexpedient to legislate.
Second.
So we have a motion on the table, ITL, for this bill, SB 204, made by Representative McGuire and second by Representative Popovich. Representative McGuire?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said earlier, we simply can't afford an expenditure of this magnitude, not just because, and it's not just because we don't have the money this year, which we don't, but also we generally have a policy that we don't approve spending like this in the second year. We sometimes do little stuff, 10,000 here, 50,000 there, that kind of thing. But big things like this have to be part of the budget and have to find their place among all the other priorities of state spending. And even though this did pass the Senate, clearly they were not, their support for it was fairly soft because they did not, in the Committee of Conference and in their version of the budget, they did not include this spending, right? So that would have been the appropriate time for them to bring this up and to negotiate with us as to, where does this fit in among all the other state spending.
Thank you. Further discussion on this bill, SB 204? Representative Damon, are you going to speak on it or not? Or yes or no? Or Representative Bricky or Weinstein or?
I have a few comments. This bill changes the cap to 200%, the federal poverty guidelines. And as I mentioned earlier, that's still incredibly low. Community organizations often attempt to fill the gaps. But ultimately, if students don't have funds to pay for their meals at school, as one of my colleagues pointed out, they may not go hungry, but then eventually it's the taxpayers, again, who shoulder that burden because it ends up coming back to taxpayers in the community who have to fill that gap. And then my last comment is, we sat in this committee last year and talked about the burdens of the income guidelines for EFAs, and how that adversely affected people in New Hampshire who want to send their kids to private school. But somehow we can't find the funding to feed kids and remove the cap, or barely raise the cap for those kids to receive free and reduced lunch. And I can't for the life of me understand how we can do that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further discussion? Not seeing. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll? The motion on SB 204 is ITL.
Vice Chairman Spilsbury,
Yes.
Rep. McGuire,
Yes.
Rep. Erf,
Yes.
Rep. Colcom,
Yes.
Rep. Popovici,
Yes.
Brown, yes. Rep. Mahigan,
Yes.
Rep. Peoples,
Yes.
Rep. Damon,
Absolutely not.
Rep. Ames,
No.
Rep. Burton,
No.
Rep. Fellows,
No.
Rep. Hall,
No.
Rep. Bricky,
No.
Rip Pritchard,
No.
Rip Weinstein,
No.
Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
9-8 passes.
Okay, folks, that takes us through our retained bills for, hopefully we have no more retained bills.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
if we're done with the bills,
OTP.
the reports, they're due to you when?
I'd like to have the reports by the close of work on Tuesday. So that, let's call it 4 o'clock.
That's very reasonable.
So-
And I haven't done a report for you before, so.
I checked the T's and I's, the dotted and.
Okay, we've got an internal method.
Yeah, you do. And I usually like to get them from David or Representative Luno.
So it'll always be from me today.
Okay.
That's his like circumstance.
I understand that. He told me that on the horn. Okay. Yeah, great enough. So everybody that has something to write, please get to it because Representative Popovich, you have a whole lot of them. And McGuire, you the same deal. Yeah, so best of luck with
You know
you.
about the form?
Thank you.
We're done.
Don't know.
Yes.
I was gonna ask you or Representative Popovich if you want me to write the consent calendar one for 7/29.
729. Let's see, which one's 729?
Since you're planning, I can't remember whether the
Definitely, yeah.